Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Gyala and I have another video for you today. So today's video is wedding related. We're going to be talking about the topic of having an open ceremony and a closed reception. Now this topic is something that I researched a lot during my wedding planning season. It's something that I feel like people don't really talk about much. It kind of has a bad connotation along with it, but ultimately it's something that I chose to do for my wedding. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my experience in hopes to kind of give a little bit of advice and maybe see if this is something that will work for you. So if you don't know what it is, an open ceremony and a closed reception is basically when you invite as many people as you'd like to your ceremony, and then you kind of have a more intimate guest list for your reception. Some of the reasons why we decided to go ahead and do an open ceremony is because we really wanted to give everybody that opportunity to come and show love. Some people want to have a more intimate wedding where, you know, it's just your close friends and your close family, and then some people want that big wedding. We wanted something in between that would work with our budget and also just kind of give us something that we want. These could be people from work, people that we haven't seen in a while, people that maybe weren't a close friend, but ultimately people that knew us and, you know, maybe watched our relationship flourish. Now, I've seen a lot of examples of an open ceremony and a closed reception. I was actually a bridesmaid in one of my friend's weddings who had an open ceremony and a closed reception. I've seen other people's weddings, and there's a couple ways you can do it and go about it. So with how we pulled off our open ceremony and a closed reception is we basically had our ceremony in one location and our reception in another location. For the ceremony, we had about 180 guests total that we invited. I think about only like 130 or 140 actually showed up. And then for the reception, we had about 80 people actually show up, whereas we invited about like 92 guests. So yeah, overall, I think our experience with it was pretty positive. I know in the beginning, my mother wasn't really happy with the idea of it, but I think at the end of the day, she even saw how successful it could be. So yeah, we actually used paperless post for our invitations, and we basically just sent two different invitations. One invitation was for the ceremony and reception, and those people invited received information about the reception and where it was. And then we just sent a ceremony only invitation where it states on the invitation that there is a private reception. A way that we were able to thank our guests for coming that weren't necessarily going to the reception is we basically had a donut cocktail hour. I chose donuts as my wedding favor, and we had donuts and cocktails and conversation directly after the ceremony. So overall, I really feel like our open ceremony and closed reception was pretty successful. I don't really have too many regrets. There was one thing that I would have changed, but I'll talk about that later. But overall, I think, you know, it worked out for us. So some of the cons that I feel like with having an open ceremony and a closed reception is there is etiquette. And I mean, there's etiquette with having a wedding in general, but there is an etiquette that you really want to make sure you follow. If you don't follow it, it can really come off as rude or make it easy to offend people. So now that I've shared with you my experience, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys 5 tips that could really help you out if you're planning to do an open ceremony and a closed reception. So number 1 on the list is watch out for friend groups. This is actually where I made my mistake. I had a friend group that I used to work with, and there was about 5 of them, but there were 2 people that I was actually really close with. So they weren't invited to my reception, but at last minute, I ended up inviting the 2 people that I was closest to. Now they assured me that, you know, the others wouldn't be offended, but at the end of the day, I do still feel like they were offended. And the only reason why I really wanted to invite them is, I mean, one, like I feel like I was more closer to them, but I did know that there was gonna be some extra chairs, some extra seats at our reception, so I figured, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal. Little did I know is that when we got to the reception, there were way more seats, and I basically found out that all 5 of them could have come. So that's definitely something you wanna watch out for. You know, if you're planning to invite a friend group, You want to make sure you invite all of them or none of them at all. Number 2 is to be careful with families. Now, I know we might have cousins from all over, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to not invite cousins. Me and my husband, we decided that we would only go ahead and invite our aunts and our uncles just to avoid any favoritism over which cousin or whatever, because our budget really couldn't allow for us to invite all of our cousins. Number 3 is really just a nice gesture. You really want to give them a thank you, whether that be a wedding favor, whether that be, you know, some sort of cocktail hour that they can be a part of. It's something that I really think that they'll appreciate and not feel so left out. Number 4 is to make sure you let people know on the invitation. This way, people aren't coming to the ceremony and expecting, you know, this grand dinner afterwards. So in your own way, you kind of want to let people know that this is a ceremony-only invitation and that only close friends and family are invited to the reception. So number 5 on the list would probably be location. I've honestly seen, you know, an open ceremony and a closed reception be pulled off with just having it at one location, and then whereas, you know, my wedding, you know, we had it at 2 different locations, ceremony at one location and the reception at another location. I feel like when you have it at one location, it can be really, really tricky, just depending on how you do things, especially if everything is going to take place in one room, and yeah, that could just be a mess. So you really want to pay attention to that and make sure there is an appropriate way of doing that. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know if you like this video. If you really like what you're seeing, subscribe, and I'll have something else coming out for you. I'll see you later.